This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
This episode is sponsored by CalderaLab.com. These guys do men's skincare products. Now, you might think I'm just this beautiful naturally, and it takes a little work sometimes. I've been using this for about a week. I get up every day. I start with the Caldera Clean Slate, lather, rub it into my face, rinse, dry, and then I apply a small amount of the base layer to my face and neck. And then every night I clean my face again with the Clean Slate. I rinse and dry, and I rejuvenate with the Good. It's a 3-part system. It keeps my skin nice and soft. I have oily skin, so I need to keep it clean all the time. Normally, I wake up and my face is all oily and greasy, and in this week I've been using it. It's not. It's nice. It's still nice and clean, and I'm loving this stuff. If you go to their website, it's CALDERALAB.com. You use TOTW and you get 20% off your order. Frankly, if anybody knows me, I wouldn't say good stuff about something that I don't like. I love this stuff. Keeps my face nice and soft, beautiful. I even use it on my beautiful bald head. So go and check it out. This stuff is sustainably sourced. It's all natural and a 60-day money-back guarantee. You can't go wrong. Check it out. What is going on, and welcome to Take on the World Lockup. This episode number 4, we'll be taking a look at the Ohio State Reformatory. The Ohio State Reformatory began its history in 1862 in a field that was a training camp for Civil War soldiers. Camp Mordecai Barclay was named in honor of a Mansfield man who served as the Ohio governor in the 1840s. The prison was originally named Intermediate Penitentiary. In 1867, the location was promoted as a site for the new Intermediate Penitentiary, and the city raised $10,000 to purchase 30 acres of land for the prison. The state then acquired another 150 acres of adjoining land for $20,000. The construction cost for the prison was about $1.5 million. The Intermediate was supposed to be a halfway point between the Boys Industrial School in Lancaster and the state penitentiary in Columbus. It was meant to be a place for first-time offenders who were too old for juvenile facilities, yet too young to be put in a hardened Ohio State Penitentiary. While construction began in 1886, it was not completed until 1910 due to funding issues causing many delays. The original architect was Levi Schofield from Cleveland. He used 3 distinct architectural styles: Victorian Gothic, Richardsonian Romanesque, and Queen Anne. The design was supposed to help encourage first-time offenders to become reborn back into their spiritual lives. In 1891, the name was changed to Ohio State Reformatory. On September 15th, 1896, the reformatory opened its doors for the first 150 prisoners who were brought in by train from Columbus. Those 150 prisoners were immediately put to work on the prison sewer system and the 25-foot-high stone wall surrounding the complex. The goal of the institution was to truly reform and rehabilitate its inmates, who received 3 things during their time at the facility: religion, education, and a trade. Inmates were admitted for 18 months, and if they showed progress, they could be released after that time. If not, they received another 18 months. The model was successful, and the Ohio State Reformatory had a high success rate and a low recidivism rate. From 1935 until his death in 1959, Arthur Glatka was the superintendent. He was respected by officers and inmates alike. He implemented many reforms, such as radio music being piped into the cell blocks. Glatka died of a heart attack in his office on February 10th, 1959. In the early 1960s, the state pulled financial support for the reform model and converted the prison into a maximum security facility. There were many deaths at Ohio State Reformatory. These are just a few. Even though the reformatory was an intermediate prison, it had a fair share of death and violence. 2 corrections officers were killed in the line of duty on prison grounds. On November 2nd, 1926, a paroled inmate returned to the prison and shot 72-year-old prison guard Urban Wilford. The murderer, Philip Orlek, was arrested 2 months later and was executed in Ohio Penitentiary's electric chair a year later. A 48-year-old prison guard named Frank Hanger was beaten to death with an iron bar during an escape attempt by 12 prisoners on October 2nd, 1932. 2 of the inmates, Merlin Chandler and Chester Proboski, were found guilty of the guard's murder, and both were executed in an electric chair in 1935. July 21st, 1948 was a dark day in the reformatory history. 2 former inmates, John West and Robert Daniels, kidnapped the prison's farm superintendent, his wife, and their 20-year-old daughter from their home on the Honor Farm. The pair then murdered the entire family in a cornfield off of Fleming Falls Road. West and Daniels, known as Mad Dogs, went on a 2-week crime spree, leaving 6 people dead. They were later found near Van Wert, where a shootout resulted in the death of West and Daniels' capture. Daniels was later executed in the electric chair. In 1950, the warden's wife was reaching into a closet looking for her jewelry box. When she removed the box, her hidden pistol fell on the ground, discharging and fatally wounding her. Her husband was the warden who died of a heart attack in his office years later. In the area known as the Hole or solitary confinement, 2 men were placed into the same cell. One emerged alive. The other had been killed and stuffed under the bunk. Another man hanged himself in the hole, and another set himself on fire. Many other prisoners died behind Ohio State Reformatory's large stone walls, some of disease, others of violence, some by their own hand. The prison cemetery, just beyond where the walls stood, contains over 200 prisoners who perished while incarcerated. The facility was never intended for maximum security purposes, and by 1980, the conditions had deteriorated so much that the inmates sued the state of Ohio. The inmates won, and construction began on a new facility to replace the reformatory. Within 10 years, Ohio State Reformatory was closed in December of 1990 by federal court ruling, citing overcrowding and inhumane conditions. Most of the grounds and support buildings, including the impressive outer wall, have been demolished. The facility sat empty for several years until local activists rallied to purchase the building from the state and committed to repairing and restoring it. They purchased the property for $1. The Mansfield Reformatory Preservation Society was formed and is currently working to restore the facility to its original state. The restoration is funded through donations and tour fees. Ohio State's electric chair, Old Sparky, is exhibited at Ohio State Reformatory, though it was never used at this facility. You could still tour this prison today for a fee of $25 for a self-guided tour or $35 for a guided tour. It has become a popular place for TV and filmmakers to film. In 1989, scenes for the Tango and Cash movie were filmed at the prison while it was still operational. The facility was most famously used for the filming of Shawshank Redemption in 1994. The prison was used for scenes of a Russian prison in the 1997 Air Force One. Numerous music videos have been filmed here as well. The Travel Channel filmed a tourism documentary at the facility. The 2018 Sylvester Stallone movie Escape Plan: The Extractors was in part filmed here. A number of paranormal investigator shows, including Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, Ghost Asylum, and Ghost Hunters Academy, were filmed on location here. The WWE did a photo shoot here featuring Triple H. Due to Ohio State Reformatory being in the movie Shawshank Redemption, is one of the most recognizable old prisons in the United States. With its history dating back to 1862, I'm sure there's many stories that could be told about time spent in this prison. If you are in Mansfield, Ohio, and have the opportunity, it may be worth a stop to tour this prison. So we took on Ohio State Reformatory. Now you go take on the world, but don't get locked up doing it.
This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.